passenger flight crashed in Kazakhstan, claiming the lives of 38 people. The flight, which had departed from Baku, Azerbaijan, bound for Grozny in the Russian Republic of Chechnya, was rerouted to Aktau, Kazakhstan, due to poor weather conditions. The flight, operated by an Embraer E-190 aircraft, was carrying 62 passengers and 5 crew members at the time of the crash. What should have been a routine flight turned into one of the most devastating aviation disasters of the year, with the loss of many lives and the struggle for survival of several others. Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 was scheduled to fly from Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, to Grozny, a city in southern Russia, on December 25, 2024. The aircraft involved, an Embraer E-190AR, had been in service for over a decade and had flown numerous flights for the airline. Manufactured in 2013, the plane was registered as 4K AZ65, with serial number 19000630 and was named Guzar. It was powered by 2 General Electric CF34-10 E6 engines. Prior to the crash, the aircraft had been regularly maintained, with its last inspection carried out on October 18, 2024. The aircraft was 11.6 years old at the time of the accident and had been a trusted part of Azerbaijan Airlines fleet. The flight was carrying 62 passengers, including citizens from Azerbaijan, Russia, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, along with 5 crew members, all from Azerbaijan. Among the passengers, 37 were Azerbaijani, 16 were Russian, 6 were Kazakhstani, and 3 were Kyrgyz citizens. The crew consisted of 3 Azerbaijanis, including Captain Igor Kshniakin, who was the pilot in command. Tragically, both pilots perished in the crash. The rest of the passengers included a mix of adults and minors, and 4 children were aboard the flight. The flight was initially set to land at Grozny Airport, but the weather conditions there were poor, prompting a rerouting to Makhachkala in Dagestan, Russia. However, the weather in Makhachkala was also unfit for landing, and the plane was once again diverted, this time to Aktau, Kazakhstan. At 7:55 local time, Flight 8243 departed from Baku International Airport. The flight was supposed to be a straightforward journey, but it encountered unforeseen challenges almost immediately. As the aircraft flew near Grozny, it became subject to significant GPS jamming and spoofing, a common issue for flights over Russian airspace. This interference made it difficult for the plane's navigation systems to function correctly. In response to this, the crew took necessary measures to ensure the aircraft remained on course, even as it began to deviate slightly from its planned route. Upon reaching Makhachkala, the aircraft was unable to land due to poor weather conditions, and it was redirected to Aktau, Kazakhstan. At around 8:40 local time, the aircraft disappeared from radar coverage as it flew over the Caspian Sea. Nearly an hour and a half later, at around 10:07 local time, the plane reappeared on radar, flying towards Aktau, but significantly off its usual flight path. At 9:35 local time, the crew declared an emergency by squawking 7700 on the transponder, signaling a severe in-flight emergency. They reported a failure of the control system, and the plane was struggling to maintain proper flight. The pilots then requested an emergency landing at Aktau International Airport. As the plane veered further from its intended course, the situation grew dire. The final descent was chaotic. At 10:28 local time, the aircraft struck the ground. Its right wing hit first, and the plane tumbled violently, resulting in a massive explosion. The impact and ensuing fire destroyed the front section of the aircraft, while the tail section remained largely intact, though upside down. The explosion and fire caused immense destruction, and the aircraft was broken into 2 major pieces. The incident was caught on video by bystanders, and footage showed that the landing gear had been deployed at the time of impact, a sign that the pilots were attempting an emergency landing. Of the 67 people on board, 38 were killed, including both pilots. The surviving 29 passengers included some who were in critical condition, with 11 of them requiring immediate medical attention. Among the survivors were 2 children, who were rushed to the hospital along with the other injured passengers. The crash, which occurred in a remote area, saw an immediate response from emergency personnel. Over 480 responders, including 97 pieces of special equipment, were dispatched to the crash site. Medical teams from Kazakhstan and neighboring countries were flown in to assist in treating the injured. The nationality breakdown of those on board showed that 37 passengers were from Azerbaijan, 16 from Russia, 6 from Kazakhstan, and 3 from Kyrgyzstan. The survivors included 17 Azerbaijani citizens, 9 Russian citizens, and 3 Kyrgyz citizens. The rest of the casualties, including a few crew members, were also largely from Azerbaijan. As soon as news of the crash spread, emergency teams, along with doctors and rescue personnel, were sent to the scene from all over the region. In Aktau, local residents rushed to donate blood as the emergency blood supply centers sought to meet the urgent need for donations. The response was swift, with people lining up outside the donation centers, showing a remarkable outpouring of support from the local community. As the recovery operations continued, both Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan launched investigations into the cause of the crash. Preliminary reports from Russia's aviation authority suggested that the aircraft may have collided with a flock of birds, which could have caused significant damage to the plane's control systems. However, survivors reported hearing an explosion before the crash, followed by shrapnel hitting the fuselage, raising doubts about the initial hypothesis. The damage to the aircraft, particularly the perforations found on the tail section, further suggested the possibility of an explosion, perhaps caused by an oxygen cylinder on board. Witness accounts indicated that the plane had experienced a strong impact on its fuselage, with some passengers reporting hearing an explosion followed by what sounded like shrapnel striking the plane. While the bird strike theory could explain some of the initial issues, it didn't seem to account for the catastrophic descent and the violent explosion that followed. Emergency response teams quickly pointed out that the damage to the plane was not consistent with a bird strike alone, leading to further speculation that an oxygen cylinder on board might have exploded, causing a chain reaction that ultimately brought the aircraft down. Experts also began to explore the possibility that the aircraft was struck by anti-aircraft fire, potentially from Russian military systems. Given that the aircraft had been in the vicinity of ongoing UAV attacks in the region, it was speculated that a mistake in the friend or foe identification systems of Russian anti-aircraft defenses might have led to the plane being misidentified as a threat. Some military analysts suggested that this could explain the unusual damage to the plane and the series of explosions reported by survivors. This theory was met with skepticism by some experts, who pointed to the concentration of puncture holes on the tail and wings, which seemed to suggest a failure in the aircraft's hydraulic systems, similar to the United Airlines Flight 232 disaster. Aftermath and global reactions. In the days following the crash, condolences poured in from all over the world. Leaders from Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and other countries expressed their sorrow over the loss of life, offering their condolences to the people of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev, who had been on an official trip to Russia, was informed of the tragedy mid-flight and immediately returned to Baku to oversee the national response. He declared December 26, 2024, a national day of mourning in Azerbaijan. First Lady Mehrabin Aliyeva, along with other government officials, expressed their condolences, and the government pledged to support the families of the victims. The international response was equally swift, with leaders from the United States, France, the United Kingdom, and Israel offering their condolences. Several countries, including Russia and Kazakhstan, sent medical teams and rescue equipment to assist in the aftermath of the disaster. The Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations flew in additional medical staff to help with the recovery efforts, while the Azerbaijani consulate in Aktau deployed representatives to the scene. Azerbaijan Airlines also suspended its flights on the Baku-Grozny-Baku and Baku-Makhachkala-Baku routes for the duration of the investigation. The airline opened a hotline for the relatives of those on board and changed its social media profiles to black as a sign of mourning. The investigation into the cause of the crash is ongoing, with multiple theories being explored. While the initial focus was on a potential bird strike, Evidence from the crash site, witness testimonies, and the plane's damage all suggest the involvement of a more complex and catastrophic event. Whether the cause was an explosion caused by a malfunctioning oxygen cylinder